Welcome back to Cask and Point. Today I have some pretty sad news in the bourbon community that I don't think many people are talking about. Buffalo Trace in the last week have increased their suggested retail price on pretty much their entire product line. We're seeing increases of 20%, 30%, even upwards of 50% on a lot of their bottles. So today I want to go through all of those changes. I've collected data from the Virginia ABC, the biggest alcohol beverage control system in the entire country, that's very public about what they charge for their bottles, and they have to charge the suggested retail price. And I've also collected data from Specs from Dallas, the biggest chain store in all of Texas, getting probably the most allocations of any liquor chain in the entire country. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to break it all down for you all. And we're going to talk about the secondary markets. We're going to talk about how much this will change, what bottles we're going to start seeing on the shelf much more often, how this will change the bourbon community. But yeah, let's get right into it here with Elmer T Lee. Elmer T Lee has seen the greatest percentage increase of any of these bottles. It was once a $39.99 bottle. It is now going to be $79.99. It is doubled in its suggested retail price. A bottle that was once really, really good at suggested retail price and really just a no-brainer pickup, even if you didn't absolutely love it, for $40, it's not going to be $80. Now, the secondary market is about $150 on this bottle, and so I won't expect that this bottle will become easy to find, but it should be sitting on the shelf a little bit more often because there is just a lot less profit for those flippers to be making. But at $80, those people that are lucky enough to either, find the bottle sitting on the shelf at the right time, or they have the liquor store connections, or they're winning the lotteries, or however else people are getting these bottles at SRP, now they're going to be paying double for Elmer T Lee. Absolutely insane to think about. But that's our new reality in 2025. Next up, we have Rock Hill Farms, the brother of Elmer T Lee. It was $49.99. It is now $83.99. So about a 70% increase on Rock Hill Farms. Again, this is a bottle that has an MSRP of about $250. So this one won't become much easier to find either. But it does mean for those lucky few, they'll be paying 70% more. And they will be lining the pockets of Buffalo Trace a little bit more than they'll be lining their own pockets if they are flipping them. Which, has its pros and its cons. Man, that's a massive change here for Elmer T Lee and Rock Hill Farms. Next up, we'll go down through the Blanton system. So Blanton's was $69.99. It is now going to be $79.99. And in many places in the country, it's already $89.99. And so we're going to be seeing Blanton's sit way more often. I think Blanton's was already starting to sit in a lot of places in the country. It is now going to be sitting, I think, in pretty much everywhere in the country. Its secondary value is about $100, $110. And so there really isn't any margin to be made for those flippers. And those were a lot of the people that were buying these Blantons for a long time, flipping them on secondary markets. Now we're just not going to really be seeing it at all, which is good that we'll be seeing the bottle more often. It's bad that when we do find it, we'll be paying a little bit more money, but that's Blanton's. Next up is Blanton's Gold, which has gone from $119.99 to $144.99. So about a $25 increase there on Blanton's Gold. Now, secondary market on this bottle is about $175, $180, and we're going to see that difference really shrink on this bottle. A bottle that really is never sitting on the shelves for MSRP. We may start seeing this sit a lot more often because as the secondary market continues to plummet on things like Blanton's Gold, we obviously saw it at $250, $225, $200. Now it's about $175. If it drops another $15, $20, that MSRP plus the tax on it and all these other things, you're going to start seeing this bottle pretty much sit because there isn't any profit to be made. And again, a lot of the people that are buying these bottles are flipping them. Obviously, a lot of the people that are buying them are also enjoying them. And this is obviously a very solid bottle. Probably the most beautiful bottle in the entire bourbon market. But it is now going to be $145. Blanton straight from the barrel has gone from $139.99 to $179.99. Another bottle in which the secondary market and the MSRP are really shrinking in their difference. Secondary market on this bottle was over $300 for a long time. It's now come down to about $225 to $250 depending on the proof. We are going to be seeing this bottle sit a little bit more often. I don't think it's going to become easy to find, but I do think, for those lucky few that are getting it, they're going to be paying a lot more for it, and it's just not going to become a good deal. And where I think things like Blanton's Gold, Blanton straight from the barrel may really change is that for the people that are camping, for the people that are really going all out to try to get these bottles at MSRP, I think they'll be putting in a lot less effort. And so we may be seeing shorter lines outside of a lot of liquor stores at 5, 6, 7, 8 a.m. in the morning when people are waiting for those liquor stores to open to score these really nice bottles. Well, they used to be making $100 or at least getting a bottle for about $100 off they would get if they bought it off of secondary. Now they're going to be seeing a $50 difference. It's just going to be much less incentive for them to go out, wake up early in the morning, to camp, to wait out in these big lines. So while these bottles won't become easier to find in the sense of just seeing it sitting on the shelf at MSRP, I do suspect that those lines will get a little bit shorter, so in that way it will become easier to get. But anyways, let's move on here. We have Eagle Rare 10. This was $33. This is now going to be $42.99, a pretty massive jump percentage-wise, about 30%. And this is a bottle that's already sitting on the shelf in many places in the country. It's now going to sit pretty much everywhere, I suspect. There's pretty much no profit at all to be made here on Eagle Rare 10, and it's just unfortunate because this is a great bottle. I mean, this is an absolutely amazing bottle for $30. It's still a great bottle for $40, but people will be spending a little bit more money on it nowadays. E.H. Taylor's small batch, which is actually the only difference from E.H. Taylor, has gone from $44 to $54.99. This bottle we're going to see a lot of difference with. This bottle that I don't think has really been sitting on the shelf pretty much anywhere for MSRP is going to start really sitting on the shelf at MSRP, because you once had a difference of $40, $50, $60. As the secondary market continues to plummet on this bottle, it was $120, then it was $100, now it's $80. Now that it's a $75, $80 bottle on secondary markets, now that MSRP is $55, out of the door it's going to be about $60, shipping is about $15, you actually see that there's no difference between secondary market and MSRP on this bottle for the people that are flipping them. And so I expect E.H. Taylor small batch to start sitting pretty much everywhere. I'm expecting this bottle, this is probably going to be the biggest difference out of any of the bottles that I'm going to mention here today. This bottle should be on the shelves more often. Do not pay $100, $120 for this bottle, but if you're patient enough, I do suspect a lot more people will find it at that MSRP of $55, which, good that they're finding it for MSRP, bad that they're going to have to pay a little bit more money when they do find it. Let's move on here. The Weller products have all changed. All 6 of the main Weller product lineups. Weller Special Reserve was $22. It is now going to be $29, so at a 30% increase there. This was already sitting on the shelf in many places that are regularly getting that kind of allocation. I think it's going to sit even more on the shelf now at those places, and it'll sit more in the places where it's not as common. I think in places like Connecticut, New York, where people are regularly spending more than secondary market, I am expecting it to be a little bit more available now, which, is good in a way. Weller 107 here has gone from $50 to $59. So and this is a bottle where the secondary market on it has continued to plummet. It's kind of flatlined at this point at about $100, but obviously it was $150, it was $200 back in the day. At $100 and a $60 MSRP, again, a little bit of secondary math here. Out the door price plus shipping, you're probably looking at $80 to buy this at MSRP. Sell it for $100. You'll still see some people buy it and definitely try to make a little bit of money off of it. But I do suspect that bottle is going to become much easier to find. I don't think people are going to be camping anymore for Weller 107s. At $60, it's still a great bottle. It's still well worth buying, but definitely a little bit more expensive. Next up, we have Weller 12 here. Weller 12 has gone from between $30 and $35, depending on the state. It's now going to be $40.99. So about a $7 increase on this bottle. That being said, secondary on it is about $150. So that bottle will not become easier to find, but those that are lucky will be spending a little bit more money. Weller Foolproof here. Weller Foolproof has gone from $50 to $65, a 30% increase. Again, in secondary is also at $150, so I wouldn't expect this one to be sitting on shelves anywhere, but for those lucky few, you're going to have to pay a little bit more money for it. And for those that are camping, they're probably going to camp a little bit less hard because they just won't be making as much money, or they just will be spending more money than they want to be spending on that bottle. And then the two big boy Wellers, we have Weller Single Barrel here. This has gone from $50 to $60. So interestingly enough, it's actually now cheaper than Weller Foolproof. And obviously, though, it's a secondary market is $400. That bottle will become no easier. I actually expect pretty much no difference out of that bottle. Weller CYPB has gone from $50 to $65. So matching Foolproof here, and Weller acknowledging that their single barrel is not as good as their CYPB or Foolproof now is pretty interesting. And obviously 107 is going to fall below all three of those bottles. But these bottles that were all $50, all four of them were $49.99 for a long time. We're now seeing jumps to $60 and $65. So not the biggest difference in the world, but obviously those that are lucky enough to find these bottles, to drink these bottles, that love these bottles, they'll have to spend that extra $10 or $15 in order to get their hands on these bottles. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. So these bottles were $125. They're now going to be $150. So obviously this doesn't mean that much of a difference because these bottles all have secondaries far above that $150 mark. But it is interesting for Thomas H. Handy specifically, as that bottle continues to fall. It's actually about $400 right now, and we're seeing some movement in the 300s. And so if the secondary market continues to fall and the MSRPs continue to skyrocket, we may actually see maybe in 2, 3, 4 years from now, Thomas Handy sitting on shelves, which is really crazy to think about. I wouldn't hold your breath on that one, but that is a possibility. And obviously, there's a little bit less money to be made now on the flippers of Buffalo Trace Tea Collection. But unfortunately, I think for the regular consumer, they're not going to be seeing much difference there. But it is a signal that odds are we're going to see the Buffalo Trace Tea Collection increase to $175 to $200 to $250. So for those that were lucky enough to get these at MSRP, they're just not going to be getting them for nearly as good of a deal, I think, as time goes on, because they're no longer the awesome $100 fines. They're now going to be $200, $250 over time. And this is just one step in that direction. They're now $150. Now, I will note there are a few things that didn't change. So, E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof did not change at all. It's still $80. And the king of them all, my favorite of this entire lineup for its secondary, for its MSRP, Stagg Jr. hasn't changed. It's still $59.99 at Virginia ABC, which is awesome because you really cannot find an 8 to 9 year cask strength whiskey that's at this quality, that's at this proof for $60 anymore, pretty much anywhere. And frankly, at the quality of this juice, I've long said Stagg Jr. is worth its secondary. I think it's probably the only one of this entire lineup that's worth its secondary. Maybe Weller 107 is pretty much worth it now that it's secondary, and MSRP are pretty much the same thing anyways. But Stagg Jr. hasn't moved, E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof hasn't moved. But for the most part, things have moved. And obviously, what does this mean for the bourbon community at large? I think we're going to see Blanton's, Eagle Rare 10, E.H. Taylor Small Batch, Weller 107, Weller Special Reserve. I think those bottles will really be sitting on the shelves a lot more often nowadays because there just isn't really any value to make out of them for flippers. And so the people that are actually buying these and enjoying these will have a lot more opportunity to buy them at cheaper than secondary value, although an increased MSRP as to what they were before. I think for some bottles, this isn't really going to change anything. I don't think the Buffalo Trace Tea Collection is meaningfully going to change at all. I don't think Weller Single Barrel or CYPB are really meaningfully going to change at all. Their secondaries are just so much greater than that MSRP. It just means that there will be a little bit less money for flippers to make and a little bit more money for Buffalo Trace to make. And in exchange, obviously, those people that were enjoying these bottles will have to pay a little bit more money. That being said, I don't think many people are angry paying $150 for good old George T. Stagg. But anyways, those are all the changes that I wanted to report here. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all found it informative. Definitely let me know down below in the comments what you guys think is the most egregious change of all, and what you guys are expecting in the future. If you guys think prices are going to continue to increase, how quickly they'll increase, are we going to see secondary markets plummet? Are we going to see a lot more bottles sitting on the shelf? Have you already seen a lot of these bottles sitting on the shelf? Definitely share all your comments down below in the comment section. But for now, have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.